Undisputed kingpin as the result of his destruction of Lacey. He's 34 years old, giving up 3 years in age. Elsewhere, Bika claims he's only 27. This appears to us to be the valid information. Calzaghe with a 1-inch height advantage, an arm length advantage of a ½ an inch measured from the armpit to the end of the fist for Bika. They both weigh in right on the limit of 168. Rules, Max?
Well, they're the unified rules because Calzaghe's the 168-pound champ, and that's what happens when you're the champ, and there they are.
Now here comes Sakio Bika, a former footballer who got into boxing at age 15 and simply stayed in Australia to start his pro fighting career after the Sydney Olympics. Lennox, what kind of a fighter is he, and how will that mesh with what Calzaghe does?
Well, he's an unbeaten fighter, and he's very heavy-handed. I don't think he's as quick as Calzaghe. I think he's pretty slow when it comes to his punches, but he's definitely going to be around, and he's not here to fall over.
One mild correction. He thinks he's an unbeaten fighter. He does have one loss on his record against Sam Solomon, but he points out that was in Solomon's hometown of Melbourne, and the decision seemed, at least to him, to be questionable. A happy guy who has gotten a lot of identity down in Australia from a story that claims that he was stung by a scorpion and survived a near-death experience as a 12-year-old. Max will have more on that in just a moment. And of course, we've seen many African fighters making their mark in the sport in recent years. Heavyweight Ike Ibeabuchi, middleweight Ike Quartey, now middleweight Kasim Uma. But is he really an African fighter? Is he more of an Australian fighter, given that he's been in the Jeff Fenech camp for 6 years now? A closer look at Sakio Bika with Max Kellerman.
Well, his nickname is the Scorpion because as a kid, what we think we know is that he claims to have picked up a scorpion once. At least that's how he got the nickname. He speaks 5 languages, 3 dialects of Cameroonian, English, and French. And he was an Olympian at 156 pounds in the 2000 Olympics. He was also ripped off in Germany against Marcus Beyer. He was winning the fight, and there seemed to be some funny business. They stopped the fight after an accidental headbutt, even though referee Joe Cortez correctly identified that the cut was under Beyer's eye. Beyer's corner essentially instructed Cortez to stop the fight. It was a technical draw.
Incidentally, Beyer, who holds the title belt, is fighting another belt holder, Mikkel Kessler, in Copenhagen tonight. They are angling toward a possible Calzaghe matchup, and later tonight, we'll bring you highlights of whatever happens between Kessler and Beyer in Denmark. Now, meanwhile, here comes Joe Calzaghe. And Lennox, it's kind of a golden era for British boxing, coming off of your reign as heavyweight champion. Ricky Hatton is a force at 140 and 147. And of course, Amir Khan is rising on the horizon as potentially a great fighter in the featherweight and lightweight classes. And now you have Calzaghe. What does he mean to British sports fans?
Oh, you can actually hear what he means to British sports fans. They love him. He's their hero. And, you know, he's coming here to win. He loves the sport. He wants to prove himself. And every time he steps in the ring, he's always fighting for respect.
This is the same arena in which Hatton destroyed Costa Zoo last year before a wildly enthusiastic crowd. And of course, it's the same arena in which Calzaghe scored his giant victory over Lacey. And the support of British sports fans for British athletes, Lennox, is so emotional, it has to be a lift.
Very much. You know, British fans are very passionate about boxing, very passionate about their heroes. And Calzaghe has a great support fan right now.
A closer look now at Joe Calzaghe with Max Kellerman.
Well, forget about professional losses. Calzaghe is undefeated as a pro, but to find any defeat of any kind, you got to go back to 1990 in the amateurs. Impressive. None of those fights, however, took place against Roy Jones Jr. or Bernard Hopkins. They could never decide who was going to go where. Would the fight take place in England, the United States? No one wanted to travel overseas. Neither fight happened. Pound for pound, he's entered those rankings since the win against Lacey. He's now considered among the best in the world pound for pound, and he's had some hand problems, but it's the left hand, his power hand, not his more important jabbing and hooking hand, the right.
Now let's go to ring announcer Michael Buffer for the official introduction.
Sanctioned by the British Boxing Board of Control. Steward in charge, Mr. Charles Giles. WBO supervisor from San Marino, Italy, Signore Eduardo Ciccoli. IBF supervisor from New Jersey, USA, Mr. Lindsey Tucker. Timekeepers at the bell, Mr. Gary Grennan and Colin Roberts. At ringside, the three judges scoring this contest from Manchester, England, Mr. Phil Edwards. From Hartford, Connecticut, USA, Mr. John Lawson. And from San Juan, Puerto Rico, Senor Jose Rivera. And inside the ring, the referee in charge of the action, working for the 139th time in a world title bout from Leeds, England, Mr. Mickey Van. And now, for the thousands in attendance here in Manchester, England, and the millions watching around the world, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble! Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner, wearing gold with black, official weight 12 stone even, 168 pounds. His professional record an outstanding one, 20 victories including 13 knockouts, only 1 defeat with 2 bouts even. And he is unbeaten in the last 4 years. Originally from Cameroon, but now living, fighting and training out of Sydney, Australia, the most worthy challenger, Sakio, the Scorpion, Bika. And fighting out of the blue corner, wearing black with white, official weight 12 stone even, 168 pounds. He has a perfect professional record consisting of 41 bouts, 41 victories including 31 knockouts, with 24 of those knockouts in 4 rounds or less. For almost a decade, he has ruled his division as a champion, making 18 title defenses successfully, and he is now recognized as pound for pound among the best fighters in the world. From Newbridge in Wales, presenting the reigning, defending, undefeated WBO, IBF super middleweight champion of the world, the fighting pride of Great Britain, Joe Calzaghe.
Okay, fellas, you both had your instructions in the dressing room. Just obey my commands at all time. I want no notice with the head. Shake hands, patty corners. Good luck, fellas.
When Calzaghe was getting ready to fight Lacey, he had the enormous motivation of getting ready to stare down the criticism he had faced over the course of the preceding 9 years from American boxing writers. Now he enters a full-on love fest. So whence stems the motivation tonight?
I think those big-name fights that we touched on earlier, Jim. Bernard Hopkins and the winner of the Kessler-Bayer fight, and Winky Wright and Jermaine Taylor.
Plus, it's important for him to stay busy. Can't sit around for a long time with no action.
Round 1 begins. The third man in the ring, incidentally, is Mickey Van, sporting a shorter haircut than I've seen in the past. Lennox, what's your take on Mickey Van, the referee?
Mickey Van's a good referee. I definitely didn't like him in the Holyfield fight where he actually voted against me, but you know, I forgive him for that.
Bika is a conventional boxer, at least in style and appearance. In our videotapes, in researching the fight, we saw him working behind the jab, but he himself seemed to acknowledge in our fighter meeting with him that strength is his game, and strength is where he thinks an advantage could lie against Calzaghe.
He also says Calzaghe's never seen a fighter like me. Anything he comes with, I'm going to come with it back. So he's ready to meet Calzaghe punch for punch.
So far, he's met him grab for grab, as they have been in tight quarters early on in 2 separate exchanges.
They both said before the fight that they each wanted to stake out the middle of the ring in the first round and establish themselves. Calzaghe's a southpaw, Bika's a conventional fighter. Those kind of clinches will tend to happen in circumstances like this.
Calzaghe gets his right arm free and manages a punch on Bika over the top. And now Calzaghe shows you his hand speed as both hands are free and he lands from both sides. Bika trying to get in a right over the top in close quarters.
Calzaghe doesn't need to get into these wrestling matches right now because Bika's a real strong opponent. You just don't want to do that right now because what it does is sap your strength. You should really stick on his speed, stick to the speed.
Calzaghe with his hands held remarkably low.
And I spoke to him about that. He just feels really comfortable. He feels in a certain zone when he does that.
You got to have hand speed to get away with it. He's got the hand speed. And here is Joe Calzaghe at his best, landing from both sides with non-stop blurring combinations. And once again, Bika reaches out and pulls Calzaghe toward him to stop the action.
Most people, when they hear boxer or counterpuncher, think, well, the guy's boring. Calzaghe is the example of the natural boxer who's very exciting and looks to mix it up.
And Calzaghe lands a left hand straight up the chute.
And how long you haven't seen the shoe shine? Calzaghe can do the shoe shine. And the shoe shine is just a number of punches real quick.
Bika seems a bit befuddled early on by Calzaghe's hand speed. That was more or less to be expected. You go in against a guy who can get off like Joe Calzaghe, it's going to take a little while to adjust.
I think he's actually surprised by Calzaghe's physical strength. His back has been on the ropes several times already in the first round.
Suck it in. Now listen to me when I talk. Suck it in. Really deep breathing. Breathe deep. You're stronger than him. Breathe deep. What we're going to do this round is punch straight. Right? I want you.
You had to go there, Tor. You haven't got, he's got fuck all. Hands off. Right. All right, just right. Get your jab working. Don't rush the game. Okay. Don't rush it. Dip and punch.
Lead straight. Even if you lead with a straight right.
Breathe deep.
Keep your punches straight. Leading punches straight.
Breathe deep. Yeah. Sek, you never hit him with any of them wild punches. You're out here.
No. Don't waste any punches. Just get your composure.
You know, inside with that short right uppercut, you're hurting him. Short. Breathe deep.
Bika's corner preaching uppercut. And you may have heard Enzal Calzaghe say to his son, "You're stronger than he is." In discussing the development of Calzaghe's style yesterday, his father told us, "I wanted to start with Muhammad Ali's jab, Ray Leonard's combination punching and speed, and Marvin Hagler's southpaw style." Now, anybody who doesn't want to do what Ali and Leonard did is crazy if you can get away with it and do it. By the southpaw style of Marvin Hagler, Lennox, I felt he was saying that he wants him to be more square-shouldered than most southpaws, more able to throw with both hands.
I think what he's doing is he's really saying that he wants to take a bit off of each one of these boxers and put it to his own style.
Indeed, Enzo said the style is built on Joe. It's because of what he can do physically that he can fight this style. And there's a perfect left-hand shot over the top that momentarily stunned Bika. And now Bika knocks Calzaghe back across the ring with a strong right hand.
Calzaghe has underrated punching power. Bika has a very good chin, and he was rocked right there. It's what allows Calzaghe to establish the interior of the ring the way he did against Jeff Lacey.
One of his satisfactions after the Lacey fight was to say, "I was called a slapper. I must slap pretty hard." More effective combination punching in the corner as Bika seems more and more cowed by Calzaghe's ability to get off and hand speed, and now is covering up more frequently.
Put your heads out, Sakio! You're laying on, Sakio, come on!
Calzaghe definitely wants Bika against the ropes, and Bika doesn't need to be against the ropes. He needs to step off of the ropes because he's giving Calzaghe an advantage there.
Body shot to start by Calzaghe. Bika trying to land that uppercut that his corner was talking to him about between rounds. again, Calzaghe drops his hands well below his waist, inviting Bika to leave. And when you see a guy drop his hands to his waist and the other guy doesn't throw, that's a sign of respect.
You know, here we have Calzaghe dominating a guy in Bika who's coming off essentially a win against Marcus Bayer, who's a consensus top 3 guy in the division. How do you gauge a guy like Calzaghe, potentially a great fighter? Are we watching a great fighter against a less than great fighter? How thoroughly does he dominate him? And he's dominating this fight.
Round 2 coming to a close. Calzaghe pot shots Bika with the left hand, tries it again. Bika gets off one left hand to finish the round and then tries 3 punches after the bell. And Calzaghe dodges all 3 punches and struts to his corner.
Your eyes are swollen.
He's gone, you going, son. Huh? He's gone, you know, I'm telling you.
He's gone. You're fucking making him last.
Right.
You're free side, fall asleep inside. The only practice caught you is when you fall asleep. Why do you fall asleep when you're inside? Don't go inside, you got to fall asleep. Stay long. All right? All right? All right, you're listening.
Sit down.
You should have great 1 punch and fall asleep.
Keep your head still.
1 punch and fall asleep. What's that fucking big for? All right, Joe?
We're going to take a look back at what happened at the end of the round. Let's count the number of punches that Bika throws after the bell.
Find him with that jab first, mate. Not hitting him coming around.
Calzaghe wouldn't have showboated on the night of the Lacey fight. He must be feeling awfully confident here.
He did actually some showboating against Lacey, and right there, he said, okay, Bika, you want to continue fighting after the bell? I'll get the better of that, too. Got the better of the walk back to the corner.
Now, Mickey Mann seems to be lecturing both fighters for holding, scuffling, and roughhousing in the first couple of rounds, but it appears to me, Lennox, that it's been Bika who's been doing most of the grabbing and holding.
Yeah, he's still trying to figure out what to do against Calzaghe. He still hasn't figured out what to do. He needs to jump on a B plan right now.
You know, you discussed the apparent absence of a constructive plan for what to do against Calzaghe. What should you do?
It's difficult to do anything because there's such a speed difference when it comes to hand speed. The main thing he should do is just start trying to set up Calzaghe as he comes in.
Should Bika box or brawl?
I think he should switch it around. Box sometimes and brawl sometimes, especially brawl when he gets Calzaghe against the ropes. If he ever gets Calzaghe against the ropes. Seems like Calzaghe's doing all the punching right now.
Calzaghe seems to feel as though he can land his left hand at will.
Appearances can be deceiving. Calzaghe does not have a physically imposing physique.
Another pot shot with the left hand. Lands cleanly, and Bika sweeps on by as Calzaghe showboats for the crowd.
Calzaghe feels good right now. This is his house, and he's getting into his rhythm right now, and he's looking good.
I think Calzaghe is the physically stronger of the two, in addition to being the faster guy and technically the better boxer.
Max, I think the key question about Calzaghe from an American perspective, for years, American fighters discussed but ultimately chose not to come to Wales to fight him. So has he been protected, or has he been left alone to fight here in the UK because he was too good to fight here?
He's a tall order for an American fighter to be expected to come over here and fight in his hometown, and he's such a draw here, there's no real financial incentive for him to leave until maybe now, in light of what he's doing here and what he just did against Lacey. Maybe the American public will embrace him to the point where it financially makes sense for him to fight overseas in the United States.
And he wants to go over to the United States to box. He wants the American public to see him, especially the Italian-American public.
Well, his dream fight is a fight against Bernard Hopkins. And, of course, the question there is, can the money be piled high enough? And we're talking business rather than boxing because round 3 is very similar to its 2 predecessors, although now Sakio Bika gets a chance to try to muscle Joe Calzaghe against the ropes. And again, Calzaghe lands his left hand flush, pot-shotting Bika from the outside. More showboating. Three rounds in the books in Manchester, England. 22,000 British fans very happy with what they've seen from Joe Calzaghe.
You ain't working any skills at all. Just grab this far. You just grab this far, right? Okay? What are you doing? What are you doing? You're making it easy for him, right? His side, you don't punch. He punch all side. Don't fucking let him punch while he holds on. If you don't want to fucking get it, don't get inside.
Yeah. Do you have an uppercut him, Joe?
Okay? Simple as that. You never used the C combination yet. All right, you're falling asleep.
Now listen to Mark, you're not first.
Be careful my nose.
Listen,
You don't know.
I just blow here.
It's fine.
But listen, you haven't been first at all.
No, you've got to start
You're waiting for
hitting him. You've got to put him on the back foot.
Sack, right? If you do it with your right hand, sometimes straight. You need to throw more.
Bika's corner is asking for the straight right hand, a textbook punch to throw against a southpaw fighter. But because of the way Calzaghe stands and because of the way he can fire with the left hand, it may not always be the best choice here.
Well, you definitely have to start off with a jab first. You can't hit a fast guy like Calzaghe with the right hand straight. You have to set it up with a couple different punches.
Another indication of how hard it is to fight successfully against Calzaghe. You heard Bika's corner say we want him to fight off his back foot. He's very comfortable fighting off the back foot, Joe Calzaghe.
As he showed against Jeff Lacey, where he was able much of the night to back up and strafe Lacey with shots while doing so. We've seen Bika twice in this round think about trying to throw that straight right, but it's still Calzaghe who's beating him to the punch, particularly with the left hand from outside.
And yet Bika is doing a little bit, almost imperceptibly better this round and last round than he did in the first two, I think.
He's doing more, that's for sure. Higher work rate for Bika here.
I feel Bika should definitely throw the jab more. He needs to throw that jab more. To set up, if he wants to throw that right hand, he's got to throw the jab a little bit more.
And he threw the jab there, giving Calzaghe a chance to try to counter with the right hand. I wonder when Mickey Van might warn Bika for holding. Hasn't happened yet, unless, of course, that was part of the pre-round discussion at the beginning of round 3.
This is where Bika doesn't want to be laying back against the ropes, allowing Calzaghe to come in and pot shot at him.
Fast hands.
Just the fact that Calzaghe's able to pot shot so successfully a world-class fighter says something about Calzaghe.
And Bika gets a shot at the back of Calzaghe's head and tries for it. Mickey Van says, no rabbit punching here, particularly when the guy's halfway out of the ring already.
Bika took advantage of a little situation right there. You know, if it was me in the ring, I wouldn't do that.
Things have gone poorly enough for him in the first 3 rounds. You can imagine what his motivation was. But Calzaghe comes away free. And you saw the lecture from Mickey Van to Bika.
Michael Grant might think you might do something like that, Lennox.
No comment.
Great performance. Madison Square Garden, a round and a half. Good by Michael. Now Bika gets in a little counter right inside. Just misses with a swinging right hand upstairs. Bika is encouraged by something here in round 4. His activity rate has gone up. His jab has been more evident. He's landed a couple of shots, and now Calzaghe is bleeding badly from the left side of the face.
You fucking knew it happened, right? I knew it was gonna happen. You were fucking about them. You're fucking about them. All right? Don't fucking shut up. Listen, you've got fucking 2 choices there, right? Right? You've done it all the fucking time. Right, Ray? It's off. It's over. There's no way after that.
He's cut big. He's going to be desperate now. He's going to come out with a lot.
You see Calzaghe countering with a left hand on Bika's chin. Good punch. This is where Calzaghe throws some punches and his momentum puts him outside the ring. This is where Bika, you know, he throws punches. He knows he shouldn't be throwing punches at that moment, but he did.
I agree with Lennox. What he did to Grant was considerably subtler than that, Max.
Agreed. That crossed the boundary, I think, of good sportsmanship. Jim, you mentioned that Calzaghe wouldn't be showboating against Lacey as he is against Bika. He also wouldn't be this wild against Lacey. He was when Lacey got wild, Calzaghe stayed controlled, as you say, in his envelope. Here, as Bika gets wild, Calzaghe in return gets wild, and it's making it, over the last several rounds, more competitive than it might be.
And you heard the four-letter words in Calzaghe's corner as his father, trainer Enzo, ripped him for the showboating and the clowning around and said, look, now you see what's happened as the result. You've got that cut over your eye. So there's a cut over Calzaghe's left eye. Unclear as yet whether that was the product or of a butt or of a punch. But it introduces the first serious issue of the fight for Calzaghe, and Bika's trying to take advantage.
And we know that Bika has a hard head, and that's evident in other fights that he's had. So it may have been a clash of heads because both boxers are coming in.
And if Bika is like Lennox Lewis, who told us earlier that he would never miss the chance to go after an opponent's vulnerability, he'll try to target that cut above Calzaghe's left eye. You might say to Bika, hey, look, just try to land anything. You haven't been able to land sharp punches early on. And Calzaghe backs him up with another solid left hand there. Now Joe covering his face with both gloves as they break free. Clearly more serious about the business of protecting himself against Sakio Bika.
Bika is clashing his head with Calzaghe. There is a clash of heads there, and Calzaghe did complain to the referee, and the referee's warning Bika right now.
And now Mickey Van's going to take a point from Bika all the way around.
That's hometown cooking. That is hometown cooking. Did you see blatantly flagrant headbutts intended to worsen the cut? I did not.
No, but we saw Calzaghe's blood. That may have been enough to motivate Mickey Van. Or at least to think about it. Good right hand by Bika. Calzaghe stepping his work rate up a little bit, feeling a sense of urgency.
When Calzaghe's working behind the jab in boxing, Bika doesn't have a lot of answers. It's when Bika's successful in turning it into a kind of wild brawl that the fight gets interesting.
Calzaghe peppering Bika with jabs, slips in a body punch, and as Bika waves that left hand above Calzaghe's body punch, the difference in speed is evident. But now Bika lands both a right and a left to the left side of Calzaghe's head where the blood is flowing. Good, solid, straight left by Calzaghe. Momentarily wobbles Bika. Hard right hand by Bika, countering the Calzaghe left. And another straight right hand lands for Sakio Bika. Very encouraged by the blood he sees on Calzaghe's face.
What a chin by Calzaghe. You saw him point to it after he took a vicious right-handed shot right to it.
It's getting more interesting in Manchester.
Come on, Joe, show the class. Show the class. That was a class bit of work. Okay, listen to me, Joe. That was class bit of work. Now, he hasn't got more than a round after him.
work.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, all you got to do is 3 to 5. Casual 3 to 5, Joe, right? So you listen up?
Yeah.
Listen, there was fabulous work on the straight line, right? Work on straight lines, and then the bottom. Work straight line, then the bottom. Yeah. Right? Excellent. That's a good round.
Yeah, we're going to look at round 4. Oh, the clash of heads wasn't done on purpose. Just a clash of styles. Uh-oh. At that point, it looks like Bika's definitely leading with his head and trying to create some more damage on Calzaghe's face.
So maybe it wasn't so much home cooking for Mickey Van to take the point, although usually you see 2 warnings prior to the deduction.
Right, it seemed to me to indicate that maybe there's a sense here that the champ needs a little bit of help.
Between rounds, you heard Enzo Calzaghe asking his son, work a straight line, then go back to the jab. Calzaghe boxing with more discipline now in rounds 5 and 6 than was the case earlier. No doubt the result of that cut over his left eye. There's enough of a difference in hand speed that so far Bika has not been effective from this range. And you heard Lennox Lewis say in the first round that this is the range at which Calzaghe should try to fight all night. Straight right hand lands for Bika. His best punch.
Bika momentarily turning southpaw himself, drawing a triple right hand.
And Bika seems for the moment to be dispensing with the jab, Lennox, and just going to the strategy of trying to land the straight right. You said it would work.
In the early rounds, this is the later rounds. Jim, the difference between earlier than later is, you know, earlier everybody's fresh. Later, everybody's a bit tired, so it's harder, it's easier to hit.
Swinging right hand for Calzaghe momentarily got Bika's attention. Bika again lunges forward to throw the straight right. As Lennox pointed out, so eager to land the straight right, Bika, now that he's frequently putting his right foot forward and inadvertently putting himself in a southpaw position, which might invite a right-hand counter from Calzaghe. Calzaghe goes to an uppercut and peppers Bika with the right hand. Bika sticking the straight right again.
When Calzaghe's working that jab from a distance, it seems there's very little Bika can do. But Calzaghe seems himself to be lunging in and creating a sort of inappropriate distance for his own fight plan.
Sit up and breathe, son. Lift it up. Break, set. Break. Go, take. Now listen, sit up. Down. Up. Sakio. Down. Your concentration went that round, right? You just stood there, you weren't punching, and you started to look like your brain wasn't with it. Let's get back to the basics. Sit up. 1, 2. Now, straight left or straight right? Straight left or straight right? Give him a drink. Sometimes...
He's got fuck all. His legs are like wobbles, right?
Yeah. Straight punches.
You're not doing nothing. You 1, 2 step away. Give him a little reprieve. Right? Get a good solid jab. That jab to be solid. It's not landing. That's why it's half a jab. You don't jab.
Lennox, does it feel for a moment here as though Joe Calzaghe is somewhat caught between wanting to box Bika and take advantage of his obvious edge there, or go after Bika and try to follow through on what his father is saying about Bika having no legs and being tired?
It seems to me that he wants to box Bika. He definitely wants to get rid of Bika because of this cut. So he's getting a little bit more desperate. And when you get a little more desperate, you seem to run in there and throw some punches and put your head down. But right now, he needs to get back to his boxing, you know, stick with what got him to this place and work it. Work that speed.
For the moment, they've stopped the bleeding on the left side. If Bika lands a solid right hand there, that could change. But Calzaghe has no visual impairment now as he goes after Bika in the 7th round of a 12-round fight. You heard Bika's corner saying, now listen, let's go back to basics. Try to land a jab or a straight right hand. Bika in the last round seemed to dispense with the jab. And there's the straight right that he prefers at this point. Calzaghe, for once, had his left hand up in a protected position.
See, Bika's making a mistake right now. He's allowing Calzaghe to be first when he needs to be first at this point.
But, of course, Bika's corner has told him, you haven't been first all night. And that's been a function both of Calzaghe's quickness and his confidence. And again, Calzaghe complains to Van about butting, and Bika decides to take advantage of the opportunity to throw.
Unlike Calzaghe to look to the referee for help, and I think it indicates that he's in with a really tough guy. Bika takes a good punch. He delivers a good punch. He's physically conditioned. He's showing some pretty good stamina.
Calzaghe again pop shotting with the left hand. This time he steps in behind it, lands a body shot. Bika drops his hands. Calzaghe says, "I'll come back again then." Bika taking advantage of the opportunity to rip Calzaghe with some uppercuts and short shots inside.
Calzaghe doesn't need to be there because what he does is he puts that eye at risk when he's too close to this guy.
But he thinks he can punish Bika with both hands. Does so for a moment, then Bika comes off the ropes trying to land the big right.
Get your head to the other side of him.
Neither man has thrown much to the body. Would there be a good reason for one guy to change his approach, Lennox, and begin to try to get to the ribcage a little bit more?
Yeah, I think Calzaghe should rip to the body a bit more. But at this point, I wouldn't take that chance with that eye. You see, every time he's coming inside and laying in there with Bika, he needs to switch sides with his head and put his head on the other side and put that eye out of risk.
And within the last 2 rounds, Calzaghe has held his left hand higher than we frequently see and has been obviously trying harder to protect against Bika's right hand.
But you're fucked. So what are you going to do? You can put a towel in?
Right. Joe,
No, they won't be all right.
Kick your head the other side of him. If he's rubbing your head, cut.
Keep your head still.
Joe, basically, right, not convinced yourself. All right? You're not convinced yourself. You let it happen. Now, what's happened is because you're allowed it to happen.
Good still, Joe.
Listen to me. Yeah. You're allowed it to happen. You're not ready now. You thought the easy one.
They press now. Look at this. Look. Sakio. Listen to Mark. Straight, simple punches.
Here we see another accidental butt from Bika, and Calzaghe's complaining to the ref. At this point, you can't complain to the ref. You got to concentrate on your fighting.
He's starting to blow, you know. You've got to stop the jab out.
The old saying is you've got to be your own referee. This would be a good night for Calzaghe to find a way to be his own referee. He's winning the fight on the scorecards, or so it would appear, but he faces the possible jeopardy of a cut above the left eye, which could conceivably impair his vision if the blood keeps flowing in the late rounds.
Bika's camp so far is right, I think. It's not just that Bika's giving him a bit of a fight, it's a bit more of a fight than he anticipated, Calzaghe anticipated. The question is now, can Bika find that next gear? Not just to hang tough in a fight where he loses, but to actually win the fight. He needs to find that next gear to do it, step it up.
Bika's still standing there. He's not being forced. Calzaghe's doing the right thing. He's trying to get that rhythm going, that he can land that big left hand. He's just looking for an opportunity to land it.
There's the hand speed again as Calzaghe lands a fast 1-2. Now Calzaghe goes to the body. Threw some jabs to the body early in the fight. Seems intent for the moment on going back to Bika's ribcage.
Sharp jab, come on, sharp jab.
Notice that he throws the body punches with the right hand so that he can keep the left up close to that bleeding eye.
There's that left hand.
Round 8 of a scheduled 12 in Manchester. A nervous night for the crowd of 22,000. Ever since the blood appeared above Joe Calzaghe's eye. In the 4th round. Prior to the arrival of the cut, there was a fair amount of clowning and showboating by Joe Calzaghe, obviously enjoying himself in the wake of his rampant destruction of Jeff Lacey 7 months ago. But now it's serious business. As Calzaghe tries to preserve his chance at mega fights down the stretch.
Bika brings many things to the to this fight that Lacey brought to his fight with Calzaghe, minus the kind of name that could get Calzaghe up and to display his full arsenal of boxing skills. And that makes it a more dangerous fight than the Lacey fight in many respects.
See where Calzaghe has his head? He needs to put it on the other side of Bika. Move that cut away from Bika so Bika can't have an easy shot at it.
And momentarily there, you saw how well Calzaghe throws punches and how dangerous he can be when going backward. Planting the back foot as he goes and letting go with both hands before moving away again. Well, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary of Boxing After Dark, and in honor of that, we look back at some of the greatest fights in the history of the series. February 19 and 2000, Eric Morales against Marco Antonio Barrera in Las Vegas.
Best gloves, good luck. Let's go.
1-2 combination by Barrera. Hard right hand by Morales as they trade in the middle of the ring. And suddenly at center ring, Morales takes over the fight with his right hand. Right hand from Barrera. And now Morales is badly hurt. Over the years, there have been some unforgettable matchups between great Mexican fighters. This will stand the test of comparison with any of them. Eric Morales has never lost a fight. Marco Antonio Barrera has never wanted one more.
Desde la nota de Tijuana, México, Eric Terrible Morales.
Those were the first 12 hellacious rounds of the 36 rounds in their trilogy. And of course, many disputed the Morales decision that night, just as they would dispute the Barrera decision in the second fight. Most agreed that Barrera won the third. One of the greatest trilogies of the modern era began on Boxing After Dark. Now we come back to Manchester, round 9 of a scheduled 12. Sakio Bika of Cameroon in the gold trunks, Joe Calzaghe of Wales, 41 wins, no losses, the number 168-pound fighter in the world in the black with white trim.
Bika still stalking Calzaghe.
Solid straight left hand inside by Calzaghe. Another straight left hand lands flush for Calzaghe. Whenever Bika gets more aggressive and begins to let his hands go, we see flashes of the tremendous difference in hand speed when Calzaghe counters.
See the referee warning Bika right there because Bika actually did kind of nod his head to Calzaghe's head. Don't know if he was on purpose or not.
Good solid right hand landed for Bika in that exchange.
Bika's already convinced Calzaghe, excuse me, that he's not a guy that Calzaghe can play with, as Calzaghe was playing with him early in the fight. Now he's got to convince Calzaghe that he is a guy who can actually win the fight. I don't see him putting the pedal to the metal the way maybe he should right now.
And incidentally, in the Calzaghe versus Calzaghe discussion, yes, you must remember his Sardinian roots. Joe was actually born in London, then went back to Italy and lived there for about a year and a half before his family came back here, ultimately settling in Wales. That's a little bit like your origin, Lennox. You were moved around as a child, and so was Joe. Calzaghe was only 9 years old when his father, an itinerant musician who playfully said to us, well, I didn't play very well and I didn't sing very well, so boxing training looked like a good career. He was 9 when his father took him to a gym and got him started in the sport. And all of his classmates were playing rugby. Body shots from Calzaghe with the left hand. Bika tries to get in a right hand uppercut. Again, they trade. And Calzaghe was doing better in rounds 7 and 8 when he boxed. Lennox, he's begun to allow the fight to become messy again, the way it was in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round.
I think he's just taking a little break right now. Just trying to figure out Bika. He's trying to land that big left hand.
Bika with a straight left hand body shot. And Bika gets in a solid right hand following the bell. And Mickey Van intercepts Bika to warn him once again about hitting after the bell in a The Australian trainer runs across the ring to grab Bika away from Van and pull him back to the corner.
Fall in, Joe. You're falling in with a jab.
You've got no will to fight tonight. There ain't no will. I've seen better than that before. Yeah. I've seen it all by this before. Right. This is nothing what you've done before. He ain't got a will. You fought and said you let him box through his side. Right. I can't believe I'm watching. I can't believe it.
Breathe in.
That's the first round you really won. You know why?
No.
Breathe deep.
Breathe
you know why? Because you went forward. Yeah. He got tired. He was too tired to be first that round. He's tired. He's more tired than you are. Do you understand? Yeah. If you want to do it, you have to keep... Huh? Fucking... Well, look at him. There's got nothing there. There's nothing there. You have to one uppercut. He's throwing the uppercut. Where's your uppercut?
Bika's trainers are Mark Pitt and Billy Hussein, and you heard them telling him between rounds, you went forward, you won that round. Go do it again against a tiring fighter. That dovetails with what Lennox Lewis said about Joe Calzaghe taking a round off. Let's see if it was a good time to do so, as he's fresher on his feet to begin round 10.
It should be said that though he is competitive in many of these rounds, I really haven't seen many that you could say Bika's actually won.
Which helps to explain the honesty of his trainers in saying to him, you haven't exactly been winning rounds. Bika was tempted to try to hit Calzaghe while he was down on the canvas. That probably would have occasioned a DQ. He's already lost a point for butting.
Don't swing it. Strike punches, come on.
He's lunging forward to throw that right hand, Lennox.
Yeah, when Calzaghe throws a punch, he's lunging forward as well. He needs to make sure that he's in position and he's balanced when he's throwing those punches. Realize when he's throwing punches, his opponent is backing up, so he has to make his adjustments that way.
Partially, of course, because lunging forward puts you in jeopardy for headbutts.
Especially when your head's down.
This is reminiscent in a way of some of the title defenses that Calzaghe's had, against some of the world-class opponents I mentioned earlier. Charles Brewer comes to mind, where they were giving him good competitive fights, but really not winning a lot of the rounds. And Calzaghe would be criticized afterward for being inconsistent. In fact, when he was winning going away.
Well, a little counter right hand landed inside for Calzaghe, who got a big advantage from Mickey Van there moments before, as Calzaghe was allowed to land punches by Van while Bika more or less had his back turned in a clinch. Yesterday we asked Bika's trainers, Mark Pitt and Billy Hussein, if they thought they could get a fair shake here. And they said, nope, you don't get a fair shake anywhere in the world. You go fight. That's what you do.
And they're fighting in the middle of the ring, exchanging sloppy haymakers, but a couple landed from Calzaghe.
Let him go, Jones! Let him go! Sakio, he's not over it.
Bika shows his strength as he's always able to break him on free in the clinches and try to work Calzaghe inside. Now Calzaghe more wary of Bika. This is not going to, unless something changes, this is not going to go down as one of Joe's more picturesque performances.
You have to remember, he's fighting that unbeaten, well, maybe he's been beaten one time, but still a good opponent. Bika is a good opponent, strong boxer, as you can see. He didn't come here to lay down.
The one loss was to Sam Solomon in Solomon's hometown of Melbourne. Solomon was seen by some to give Winky Wright trouble earlier this year.
Champion here, son, because you're going to win this fight. Sakio, suck it in. Breathe deep. Yeah. Just breathe. Smart. Get him breathing. Look at me. Breathe. Right up and out. Sack. He's
out.
tired, mate.
Again, Sack. Let's breathe in. Breathe in.
Sack. He's got nothing.
Out. Again, breathe in.
You won the last round, son. You know you hurt
breathe
him.
In.
Sack, you know you hurt him 3 times that round. Now just breathe. Sack,
now, all you got to do, Sack, keep breathing.
Look at Mark.
Is lead with that right hand.
Focus.
Be first with the right hand. He's way open now. He's tired.
1, 2.
Keep
Jab,
working
right
first. Either 1, 2.
Yeah.
Right, left, right. All you got to keep doing.
Listen, Sack, inside.
Yeah.
Never there to hit the second shot.
Don't swing with it. Punch straight.
Go to left hand first.
The last words of Enzo Calzaghe were, don't swing with it, punch straight. And you heard the optimism of Mark Pitt and Billy Hussein in Bika's corner as they say, hey, you heard him 3 times in that round. Keep going forward with straight punches.
Jim, round after round, we hear both corners tell their fighters, he's got nothing. And in both corners, you could see the expression on the fighters. It's like, he's got something.
Keep your hands tight. Point to him and then let the left.
Well, at the end of the day, even the best trainers in the world will concede. Only the fighter knows for sure.
Hands tight. Come on. Don't push your head in there. Come on.
Now Calzaghe goes back to using his feet to box a little more. And on those occasions when he's done this, Bika has not had good answers.
See, they're back to this wrestling style right now. This is, you know, when they started this at the beginning of the fight, I said they're going to tire themselves out, and you can see remnants of that right now.
Hold the center of that ring. Hold the center of that ring and snap that jab out.
Bika looks real happy just to react off of what Calzaghe does and see if he can do some counter punching in there. And really, he should be jabbing. Both boxers should be jabbing.
Shouldn't Bika be busier if he could, Lennox?
If he could, I think he's a bit weary right now. Yeah, he should be throwing that jab. He should be wanting to win this fight. Step it up.
And Calzaghe, in this round at least, seems to have begun to fight more protectively, perhaps protecting both the cut over his left eye and the lead on the scorecard.
Concentration, come on. Snap, snap, come on, snap it out.
Sometimes the best ethic is win this one,
fight first,
look good and look exciting the next time out.
And maybe it behooves Calzaghe not to look too dominant against a guy like Bika if he is looking to land a big fight against another big fighter in or around the weight division.
Leave some question marks.
Yes. Southpaws notoriously through boxing history, when they've looked too good, have found it difficult to secure big fights. Though I don't think that's Calzaghe's plan here.
No, it's hard to imagine anybody cutting it that fine. But if it's the unintended byproduct of a strange night like this, then all's the better. Calzaghe's dream fight would be against Bernard Hopkins. Question is, could that much money be piled up on the table?
Get in, Sap. Look at me. Breathe. This is the last round. Breathe. Listen, son. Breathe. Listen. Pull the shorts. Suck it in. Pull them out. Pull the shorts out. Listen. This is it. This is it. Now suck it in.
Fucking win this fucking
Big round, Joe.
Last round, Joe.
Win fucking big.
You've got to win it big, Joe.
Check on there, Joe. Check on there.
Got to win it big. He's coming out like a fucking stingray now. He's coming out fucking like a stingray. Right? Okay. All right. It's okay. Okay. Do. You know what to do. Straight A. Straight A.
You've got to do it.
You've got to go to war here like
Go to war.
You've got to put your life on the line this round, son. You understand?
Don't start swinging him, Joe. I'm telling you, mate.
Through the straight lines. Through the straight lines. The straight lines.
He's going to come like a train now, straight punch.
Enzo Calzaghe asks his son to, quote, put his life on the line in this round. Seems a bit overdramatic for the circumstances. But I guess that's a way of saying, Lennox, keep fighting. Don't back off.
They're saying everything depends on this round. He wants him to, and I think that was Biko's corner that actually said that, put your life on the line, because they want him to go out there and really go after Calzaghe and try and knock him out.
Calzaghe asked his father, what should I do?
There's a bond of trust between them.
But a long-reigning belt holder and now super middleweight champion in a kind of showcase fight in the 12th round, asking his father, what should I do? His father was incredulous. You know what to do. Reminded me of the scene out of Rocky III between Rocky and Mickey.
And there is a low blow. And as Calzaghe sinks to the canvas, Mickey Van confers with him. Now already, Bika has been warned for butting, penalized for butting, warned for hitting after the bell, not yet penalized for either.
Good for Mickey Van for not deducting a point here.
I would love to hear what the referee's saying at that point.
In England, the British Board of Boxing Control will not allow a microphone on the referee. Thus the difference between here and the United States, where we might have heard what Mickey Van had to say to the fighter.
Makes me reconsider the home cooking comment when Van does not take a point there. When in the eyes of some, maybe mistakenly, Calzaghe needs it.
Well, and Lennox pointed out on the replay earlier that in the second butting instance, it did appear that Bika was going forward purposely with his head. So now a minute and 40 to go. No doubt Van has given them a lecture about trying to finish the fight cleanly. Calzaghe's question to his father, "What do I do?" was unquestionably a tribute to Bika's strength, which has been troublesome.
And it's important to keep your composure right now because it's the last round. You can't be reckless. I'm talking about Calzaghe.
You don't want a 41-win, no-loss record to suddenly be blemished by a mental error in the 12th round of a raucous fight. But of course, he's 41-0 partially because he hasn't made that critical mental error yet. Close calls, a split decision against Chris Eubank in '97 when he won the title belt that he's held ever since. The number 4 title generally seen among the hierarchy of belts, if you want to consider such an arcane observation.
And Eubank was a very good fighter, very experienced, and Calzaghe was a young guy, inexperienced, and nevertheless he won the fight.
And later, Calzaghe got a revenge victory over Robin Reed, who had been chosen by British amateur authorities to represent Britain in this weight class at the 1992 Olympic Games instead of Calzaghe, despite Calzaghe's brilliant amateur career. He beat Reed by a split decision. And you saw Calzaghe letting his hands go for one last signature combination with less than 30 seconds to go in the fight.
This has been a good fight.
Calzaghe seems to want to put a final imprint on this fight, and he gives Bika a chance to counter off the ropes and hit him hard.
Almost got imprinted right there, Jim.
A sportsmanlike embrace at the end of a very rough fight. Lennox Lewis, it's difficult to be mentally at your best every time, and this may not have been Calzaghe's smartest performance.
It was a little reckless, but, you know, he did the job. I believe that he won the fight. Like I said, he's going against a guy that's basically undefeated, only one loss. And this guy is coming to win. He's not coming to lose. Bika is definitely a strong opponent, and he fancies himself, and he did well.
And Max, you said at the beginning of the evening that Bika was a better opponent than normally we see in circumstances like this, and he seemed to make that stick.
Actually, you said that, and Jim, I agree. I agreed then, and I agree now. He's he brought to the table many of the same elements that Lacey was supposed to bring. And in addition to that, he's not a big-name guy, and so the expectation among many was that Calzaghe would not be as motivated for him, and indeed it looks like he wasn't, and so we got a pretty entertaining fight.
Gave him considerably more difficulty than did Lacey in what most everyone sees as Calzaghe's best ever performance. Here's a look at the identities of the 3 judges who will be choosing a winner here. Phil Edwards of England is scoring only his second title fight. He had Arthur Abraham of Germany, originally from Armenia, beating Kofi Jantua of Ghana. John Lawson has scored 5 title fights, but the score of Bird Okendo, with Bird winning 9 rounds against only 3 for Okendo, does not square with what I saw in that fight.
Well, anything can happen if Bird won 9 out of 12 against Okendo.
And Jose Rivera, well, noteworthily, he's scoring his first notable fight. So that makes him something of a question mark. Let's go to Michael Buffer for the official decision.
And John Lawson both have the bout 117, 110. Phil Edwards scores at 116, 111. All 3 to the winner by unanimous decision. Still undefeated. Still WBO IBF super middleweight champion of the world, Joe Calzaghe.
42 wins, no losses. Calzaghe stays unblemished because of the 5 to 8 hour time difference between here and the USA. You're watching a fight that was recorded on tape. Immediately following, our Max Kellerman caught up with Calzaghe.
Champ, congratulations. Yet another win against another in a long line of tough fighters. Assess your own performance.
To be honest, I'm disappointed with my performance. You know, the first fight on TV with you guys, so I was eager to impress. I'm not making excuses. At the end of the day, I pulled up a July date and didn't have ideal preparation in this fight. Didn't do no sparring. I went in the ring with my hand was still not great, but I couldn't miss the opportunity. I couldn't afford to pull out, so I took a calculated risk. I didn't perform like I would have liked to perform. As you can see, my timing wasn't right, and it showed my lack of sparring and gym work. And you know, unfortunately, I would have loved to perform in front of you guys, and I didn't see the best of Joe Calzaghe tonight. But believe me, you've seen what I'm like last time. I can perform. I'm waiting for a big name opponent, and next time I'll have 2 good ends.
You looked very sharp in the first 2 rounds. You were hitting them at will, and you were doing as you pleased. What changed after that? In the 4th, there was a headbutt. Did that change your strategy?
Not really. It didn't really affect me, the headbutt, but my hand. You know, like I said, I didn't have a great hand going into the fight. Maybe went a bit for the knockout, and after 3 or 4 or 5 rounds, the hand started to hurt.
Here's the headbutt.
Okay. Yeah, at the end of the day, it could be worse, could be on the eye. Luckily, it didn't affect me. But like you see, my timing wasn't quite right tonight. I was sharp for the first few rounds. When the hand hurt, then I just couldn't get my timing, lost concentration. Bit disappointed, but listen, at the end of the day, you can see what I can do. I'm still one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. And when I've got a big name, I'm looking forward to come to America and showing you guys that, I am the real deal.
If you could do it all over again in a kind of showcase fight for the American television audience, would you again take a guy as tough as Sakio Bika, or in retrospect, was it a mistake to take a guy this tough?
Well, basically, he was tough. He was a bit dirty, so technically, he just looked to survive, holding on every opportunity coming with the head. So it wasn't an ideal opponent. So hopefully next time I'll fight a guy a bit more orthodox.
If you had your wish in your next fight, there's the winner of Kessler-Bayer, there's Bernard Hopkins, although he says he's retired, Jermaine Taylor, Winky Wright. Who would you pick?
Hopkins is the man. He's a true champion. I love this performance against Antonio Tarver. And is them the sort of fights? You saw my performance against Jeff Lacey. I need them big-name fighters to show the best of Joe Calzaghe. And believe me, come February, we'll see lightning, and you'll see me at my best again.
Would you be willing to go to the States to fight Bernard Hopkins?
100%. I'll fight Bernard Hopkins in his own garden. I love to fight Bernard Hopkins. It's not a money fight. It's about being the best. And Hopkins is a true champion. I've been 9 years undefeated. And Hopkins is the sort of fight I get up for. Hopkins will show that what he gets for. And if we fought each other, it'd be a fight a decade. It'd be a tremendous fight.
Congratulations and thanks, champ.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Max. Lennox Lewis, to use Joe's phrase, at the end of the day, he took a calculated risk. What's your review?